If you're in software development, you know that time estimation is just a fact of life. But what if that whole practice, the thing we're told is a sign of a mature team, is actually the biggest thing slowing you down? Today, we're going to dig into a pretty radical idea, that estimation might be doing way more harm than good.
So let's just ask it straight up. Are they? I mean, think about it for a second. All that time you spend debating story points, the stress of having to explain why a task took longer than some number you guessed, all those meetings just to revise the guesses. Is any of that really helping you ship better products faster? Or is it just creating a whole lot of friction?
You see, here's the real problem. We've all been taught that estimating is what professional, agile teams do. But the reality is, it often pulls our most important people, the developers, away from what they do best, solving really hard problems. Instead, it forces them into a totally different job, guessing a number just to make a manager or a spreadsheet happy. It's a huge, huge drain on focus.
So why are we so bad at this? Why are our estimates so consistently wrong, even when we have the best intentions? Well, it's not because developers are bad at their jobs. Not at all. It's because the whole system is built on a really shaky foundation. Let's break down the 4 hidden obstacles that basically doom our forecasts from the very start.
I bet these are going to sound familiar. First up, unforeseen complexity. We've all been in that 80-20 trap, right? Where a task looks simple on the surface, but then you uncover this tangled mess underneath. Then you've got all the external stuff you can't control, waiting on other teams, waiting on feedback, plus the constant urgent interruptions that just shatter your flow. And the big one? Context switching. When priorities are changing every other day, how on earth can anyone predict a timeline? It's impossible.
And this creates what's being called a vicious cycle. You know the drill. We make a guess, we miss the deadline, we get some heat for it. So what happens next time? We add a little padding, a buffer, to protect ourselves. This cycle just deceives everyone, and it makes trying to predict the future feel like a total joke.
And the long-term damage from this is really serious. Those buffers just make deadlines stretch out. Management starts to think development is slow. Developers start to think management is completely disconnected from reality. And trust, which is, the most critical ingredient for a great team, it just starts to completely fall apart. But what if the problem isn't that we're bad at guessing? What if the problem is the question we're being asked to answer in the first place? This is where we get to the pivot. It's about making a strategic shift away from this flawed game of estimation and moving towards something much, much more powerful, real prioritization. The argument here is that our obsession with estimation is usually just a symptom of a much deeper problem. Nobody's actually sure what the most important thing to work on right now is. When everything is a high priority, the question becomes, how long will all this take, instead of the much better question, what's next? And this visual really nails the difference. On the left, you've got priority. See? 3 tasks, all marked high. That just creates confusion and splits everyone's focus. But now, look at the right. That's rank. There's zero confusion there. The team knows exactly what is number 1. Shifting from a vague priority to a crystal clear rank is what creates true, singular focus. The best way to understand this mindset is with a fantastic analogy: triage. Think about an emergency room. Doctors don't stand around estimating how long each treatment is going to take. No. They are constantly ranking patients by urgency to decide who gets treated next. It's a system that's built for focus in a super uncertain environment, which, let's be honest, sounds a lot like software development. Okay, so I know the big question. If we just toss out estimates, how do we measure anything? How do we know if we're being productive? Well, the answer is actually surprisingly simple. You measure what actually happened, not what you guessed might happen. The old way was all about adding up these abstract story points, which are really just a measure of a guess. The new way is so much more direct. We just count the number of concrete tasks the team actually finished in a certain amount of time. We're literally trading abstract guesswork for real, concrete output. And this new metric is called team velocity. Now, this isn't a prediction. It's a historical fact. It's simply the average number of tasks your team has proven it can complete in a set time box, like a week or a 2-week sprint. It's based on reality, not on wishful thinking. For example, if your team shipped 4 tasks last week, your weekly velocity is 4. That's it. It's a real, tangible number that shows your team's actual, proven capacity. It's that simple. So now we get to the million-dollar question, right? How do we give our stakeholders a timeline? How in the world do we plan for the future if we don't ask the team for a single estimate? Well, this is where we start using the power of our new reality-based metric.
A brilliant way to think about this is to think about the Waze navigation app. Waze never, ever asks you, hey, how long do you think this drive is going to take, right? That would be crazy. Instead, it uses tons of historical data about traffic and past trips to predict when you'll arrive. We can apply that exact same logic to our projects.
The whole process just becomes simple math, not agonizing guesswork. First, you measure your team's proven historical velocity. Let's stick with our example and say it's 4 tasks per week. Second, you just count the number of tasks in the backlog you want to get done. Let's say it's 20 tasks. And third, you calculate. 20 tasks divided by a velocity of 4 tasks per week gives you a data-driven forecast of 5 weeks. No guessing involved.
Now I get it. This might sound really radical, and switching everything overnight can feel pretty daunting. That's exactly why the best way to do this is with a safe, low-risk experiment. You don't have to blow up your current process to get started.
Here's how you can start, like today. First, for now, don't stop what you're already doing. Keep your story points if you have to. But at the same time, in parallel, start tracking and, this is the most important part, displaying your team's actual velocity. Just put that number up on a dashboard somewhere visible. You'll start to see that over time, the conversations will naturally begin to shift. People will start trusting the real historical data way more than the flawed estimates, until one day, the estimates just feel kind of pointless.
And listen, this isn't just some theory. The person who came up with this whole method says it's the very first thing they do in any new role. And the result? The pace of development always improves. By getting the team to focus on shipping work instead of guessing about it, you unlock their real potential.
So, we'll end on this question for you to think about. What could your team achieve if all that energy, all that time spent on forecasting was redirected into creating flow? You'd get more focus, more trust, and most importantly, more finished work. It's a huge shift in perspective, and it might just be the one experiment that's worth trying.